He bought a SpongeBob uke over from York, England to give to my granddaughters. So I had to learn to play the uke to teach my granddaughters. Of course, you know, they're into everything but playing an instrument or something. So, but anyway, we were up here, and I knew about Molly Tynes. Molly rode during the Civil War in 1863 up to Warren Withel that an army that was camped in Tazewell was going to attack. And then, so I knew about that, but I didn't know about Nick Winn, the story of Nick Winn. So Ron gave me the poem that a lady named Emily, I think it's O'Grady, right?
Yeah.
Emily O'Grady wrote, and don't know when, what, at the turn of the century or?
No, it was back in the 50s.
In the 50s she wrote it. And I'm not a great songwriter, but I got home and I read the poem a couple times when I got to the house in Roanoke, and then that night about 3 o'clock I woke up and that song was on. It woke me up. And so I got up and wrote the song and the melody too that from her poem. She wrote the words, I just made it into a song. Nick Winn Holler. You want to do the poem after I sing it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give the poem after you get done.
All right. In those stony, lonesome hills, the Tazewell Turnpike winds its way through pines and oaks. Hear whippoorwills whistling away their songs each day. Down below on his circus cage rides Nick Winn on that fateful day. Wagoneer, they do say, headed down old Withville way. Can you hear that frightful sound? Nick Winn and his horses falling down, down, down. It makes your throat too tight to swallow to hear the story of Nick Winn Holler. Road was narrow, steep and winding. Nick makes his way, his thoughts do stray. But not for long, his heart starts pounding. There's imminent danger, it's headed his way. The wagon lurches at the edge so near. Nick yells at the top of his lungs. Oh no, he cried in fear. Down the mountain, the wagoneer does plunge. Can you hear that frightful sound? Nick Winn and his horses falling down, down, down. It makes your throat too tight to swallow to hear the story of Nick Winn Holler. To this day, when you near that turn, a big Walker Mountain road you go, thoughts within your mind will burn of the ghost of Nick Winn in the hollow below. Can you hear that frightful sound? Nick Winn and his horses falling down, down, down. Makes your throat too tight to swallow. Hear the story of Nick Winn Holler. Thank you. Thank you.
That is outstanding.
Thank you, Ron.
Folks, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of this area before I give you the poem. In through this part of the country here, there was what they call the Tazewell Turnpike, and it went from Tazewell, Virginia, through Burke's Garden and up this back road here, and it crossed the mountain right here about where the building is, just behind the building, and went down the mountain. You can still see signs of it if you walk through the woods, and it travels on down through Withville, and it goes all the way down into Fancy Gap and into North Carolina. Now, they don't call it the Tazewell Turnpike down there. They call it the Fancy Gap Stage Road, because the roads were sort of named for the areas from where they started. And so this poem here was written by Miss Emily O'Brady, and best we can get, it was back in about the 50s, and she lived here all her life and had family in Florida. And at one time she took the poem down to Florida and she won first prize in the state fair down there for poetry. And she always thought her poem would just disappear and not be around, so she asked my dad if he would post it up on the building up here years ago. And she thought maybe it would live on then. And so he did that, and we're in possession of the real original poem with the blue ribbon that was given to her. She gave that to my dad also. And so I want to try to keep the poem alive, and thank goodness with Eddie's help, I think we'll make it go many, many years after ourselves. But the poem's name is The Legend of Nick Winn Hollow, and it goes like this. Up in stony lonesome hills of pines and oaks and whippoorwills, the Tazewell Turnpike winds its way like a lazy snake on a summer's day. For a while it follows the mountainside and goes in and out, and it seems to hide until it comes to a narrow place built up of stones on the mountain's face. The road bends like a mighty bow, and the rock wall leaps to the gorge below. Oh, many a stranger's climbed its side to drink from the flow of the forest tide that crosses the road and gurgles away down through the gorge on its endless play. Many a child has gathered ferns from this garden of sandstone urns. The place is haunted, the neighbors say, by a showman who once passed this way. Nick Winn was driving a circus cage when this was the road of the Fancy Gap stage. His team pitched down the narrowing curve where danger lurks with the slightest swerve, and the coach's wheels gave a sudden jolt that sent them bordering the rocky tilt. The horses sprang to Nick Winn's yell, but the great old coach missed the edge and fell. Both horses and driver sprang to their death on the rocks below in a moment's breath. So Nick Winn Hollow is haunted by him, and most any folks that circle the rim will tell you of things that happen today when a lone wagoner is passing that way. Where suddenly out of the silence floats the lumberous sound of this great old coach. The wagoner draws his team aside till he knows the passing way is wide, and though it's hard to believe his ears, for the sound is loud, but nothing appears. A whip cracks loud, a shout rings clear, then somewhere in that sightless sphere, a rush, a plunge, a frightful fall, like something tumbling over the wall. Another shout, the silence fills, and then the song of whippoorwills. Friend, who are you? The wagoner cries. Oh, I'm Nick Winn, the voice replies. The bewildered man yells, where are you? But the hoot owl answers, oh, who, and laughs, and then all is still, except for the song of the whippoorwill. That's a poem by Miss Emily O'Brady, and I think it's one of the neatest poems that I've ever heard, and not being a poet and not being able to recite, I love to tell it. I really do. And in Eddie Ogle's song here, he gets to a point where he says, and his throat is too tight to swallow. And every time I read that poem, I get to those points where it just seems like I have to force the words out. But I love that poem.
It's
and
great.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ed.
Oh, thank you, Ron.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Try to get this guitar in a little better tune. And one of my favorite groups, I guess a lot of people around in this area and around